Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The education minister accuses the former Christie administration of running the education ministry like a chicken coop.
Adelaide residents outraged over an oil leak in their community.
The Prime Minister discusses his plans to see effective change in the tourism industry.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, the last Christie administration committed to spending $30 million on schools the government does not own. That's according to Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd, who highlighted a number of troubling issues in his ministry, including hundreds of contractual hires in the months ahead of the election and more than $150 million in defaulted education loans. Jasmine Brown has all the details in this report.
The education minister says since coming to office just over a month ago, he has uncovered some startling facts that show the former administration mismanaged the ministry.
There's a process to get into the public service, a process which was contaminated, bastardized, and aborted in at least the Ministry of Education.
In his communication today, Lloyd revealed the former government was investing $30 million in schools it didn't own. He says it's likely they never would. According to the minister, the most troubling situation exists on Wolf Road at the Seventh-day Adventist property that previously housed Bahamas Academy. Former Prime Minister Perry Christie said earlier this year that the government would construct the Star Academy on that site. But according to Lloyd, the contract, which was entered into 3.5 years ago, started out as a $1 million consideration for the relocation or transfer of BTVI, and somehow it ballooned to $25 million.
The government, if it goes through with this process, will spend $25.7 million buckaroos dollars on that property. Listen to this, Mr. Speaker. Out of which we will get a 5-year lease. 5-year lease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year lease. And, Mr. Speaker, that we will be required to pay, according to the lease agreement, $60,000 per year.
Lloyd says at this point that particular lease agreement cannot be found. Then there were concerns about hiring. According to the minister, since 2013, nearly 1,000 people were hired by the Ministry of Education on contract.
Since 2013, Mr. Speaker, the ministry has had added to its payrolls some 985 contract workers.
Doing what?
How much? 985 contract workers. Okay. There's a need in any organization to have what you might call contract workers. No problem. 311 of those contract workers, Mr. Speaker, were hired between December 2016, May 2017.
And Lloyd says if that weren't enough, they also uncovered $159 million in defaulted loans that were handed out by the Education Loan Authority.
Since it was first started in 2001, there have been 4,700 student loans that were issued in 26 disciplines. Today, sir, the default rate is 75%. Default. What does that mean? People don't pay back.
When it comes to infrastructure, the minister said 50% of the nation's public schools are in a state of disrepair, and there are 8 that need to be condemned. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd also revealing startling statistics relating to the results of the national examinations, saying that thousands of students barely pass subjects. It's clear that the education system is in desperate need of revamping.
Like the old adage states, the first step in solving a problem is admitting that you have one. So, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to education, sir, we have a problem.
Lloyd says last year's results for the GLAT, BJC, and BGCSE exams are less than encouraging.
And you have 37% of our third graders, 40% of our sixth graders failing the GLAT exam, a mere 20% of our ninth graders achieving relative success at the BJC level with 5 or more subjects with a D pass and above, and only 23% of the BGCSE candidates achieving a grade of D and above in 5 or more subjects. We cannot pretend that things are going well in education.
As for the way forward, the education minister says the Minnis administration will focus on fixing education. He says educating and training of Bahamians are key factors in the progressive and sustainable economic development of the nation. Well, $25 million owed, unpaid, and due. That's the total amount Minister of Health Dr. Dwayne Sands says he met in unpaid bills when he took over at the Ministry of Health shortly after May 10th. Distressing only begins to describe the situation Sands says he met as he pulled back the curtain on fiscal mismanagement at the Ministry of Health during his contribution to the budget debate Wednesday night.
There were fiscal decisions made that had a decidedly negative impact on the ability of the public health institutions to provide care for patients. There were professionals working for my ministry that had not been paid for years. I found that we owe vendors for drugs, vaccines, and medical supplies. As we approach the end of year, the suppliers of drugs and vaccines were owed by the PHA $2,896,714. We owed an additional $2,170,937 for medical and surgical supplies.
Sands says the vital organs of the healthcare system, Princess Margaret Hospital and the Rand Memorial Hospital, were crippled when the managing director of the Public Hospital Authority was unable to secure just under $1 million requested back in November 2016.
We have 67 out of 400 beds at PMH taken out of service, beds that were needed for sick patients, patients that had to wait in the emergency room for days.
It also caused a number of healthcare professionals to go unpaid, another $9 million in outstanding bills.
The nurses serving on the Nursing Council, Mr. Speaker, not paid for years. The Health Profession Council, broke, Mr. Speaker, not paid for as much as 5 years, owed $228 million. $228,000.
In addition to unpaid rent on housing for clinic staff on many family islands, including Palmetto Point, Rock Sound and Gregorytown, in Red Bays and Bowen Sound and Mangrove Key, he says there were unpaid bills in relation to NHI, including $799,116 for customer service reps and $1.3 million for 2 consultant firms who were at times costing the Bahamian people as much as $500,000 and $250,000 per month, respectively. Despite the findings, Sands says he is ashamed to admit what the government of the Bahamas did next.
What did the cabinet of the Bahamas do? They don't pay obligations. They didn't buy medication. They didn't buy vaccines for babies. They didn't pay for supplies in the hospital. They didn't pay the rent for nurses and the other staff. They didn't compensate the vendors for money owed. You see, in addition to funding Carnival, incredibly, they found and made the time to award what came up to a total of $90 million of contracts to people who some would call the party faithful.
And $9.8 million in political down payments for security contracts, janitorial contracts, generator purchases, and other miscellaneous items less than 2 weeks before the general election. In other news, Bahamas Power and Light Company Limited says a cable fault is to blame for an island-wide outage impacting thousands of New Providence residents after 3 this afternoon. Traffic was also backed up at busy intersections after traffic lights malfunctioned. BPL says it will conduct a complete investigation once its system has stabilized, assuring customers that it is working to find immediate solutions to this problem. Well, residents of Adelaide are outraged over a fuel leak, which they fear could pose serious health risks and threaten nearby wetlands. We're told the Department of Environmental Health Services has now launched an investigation. Vonique Toot reports.
The overpowering and even nauseating smell of oil is a major concern for residents of Adelaide, who say the oil leak at this property just off Frank Watson Highway first caught their attention just over a month ago. They're now asking officials to do something about it. For Adelaide resident Sam Kemp, the strong odor was impossible to miss as he began his routine walk on Adelaide Road this morning.
Something has to be done. Automatically, something has to be done.
Kemp, who has lived here all his life and also runs a restaurant and bar in the area, says they first detected the stench weeks ago but could not pinpoint its source till the brush was cleared down and heavy equipment was brought in, revealing pools of oil.
And as they excavate, we started to see the oil start to come up from not just one point here. There's another point further down the road that the oil is now spilling all the way into the wetland. And that is a grave concern based on the economic life of the small fish and the growth. Also the water table. This is a very fertile water table in the back here.
The leak was first brought to light last week when environmental activist Sam Doncombe said she learned that a fuel line that runs from Bahamas Power and Light's Clifton Pier plant to the Blue Hills plant was impacted. The odor was so pungent this morning that passing motorist Charles Johnson stopped his car, hopped out, and recorded this video.
Oil in the water. Oil in this water.
This morning I was just with my windows down, driving past, and there's a high scent of oil.
However, this resident says if you think it's bad today, wait until it rains.
My sisters are very much concerned, and myself, because we've been smelling it for some time. And especially when it rains, you really can smell it more often.
Environmentalists have called for the immediate cleanup of the spill, which they say poses a serious threat to the wetlands and residents in surrounding areas. However, residents say their calls for action have been met with silence.
And it's basically almost like it was a hush-hush until it started to get so profound that you could actually smell the oil coming up as you even pass by.
And how long has this been like this?
Well, I know it's been now over a month.
And then I saw like they're digging. So this obviously is in the ground. So we're talking about the marathon issue with the gas station that affected so many surrounding properties. I'm talking about over a mile away. I'm less than a mile up the street. And I'm dealing with well water.
Johnson, who makes a living off of healthy lifestyle, says he is extremely concerned about potential health risks. He says residents have a right to know what happened and what's being done to fix it.
And residents in that area should have a right to know that there is a cleanup, if there's a cleanup of oil on a residential property with somebody's house 20 feet away. You know, and this is the type of things we are dealing with. And you know, this is 2017 where you have to be more transparent to the public. You know, because what? You can wait till somebody is ill or somebody's having issues and people start to ask questions. Then you can come out to say, hey, this is what we're dealing with, a community notice. And that's all we're asking for. I had to post it because I feel that people have the right to know, man.
Our News reached out to BPL's Public Relations Department for comment. However, our calls were not returned up to news time. We also sought answers from Environment Minister Romuald Ferreira, who said the matter was brought to his attention today, and he has since asked officials at the Department of Environmental Health Services to conduct an investigation. Ferreira said he would provide further information once DEHS reports its findings. However, he said BPL has experienced problems in the past with persons either stealing or attempting to steal diesel from BPL's line, which runs from the Clifton Pier plant to the Blue Hill plant. He said the strong odor suggests the line was impacted recently, causing a leak. Reporting for Our News, I'm Vonique Toot.
Still to come on our news, the Prime Minister addresses tourism and hotel stakeholders. That and more when our news returns.